Hey everyone, I'm here at the Bluff battlefield with our friends from the Friends of Bluff. We're talking about this engagement that took place here in October of 1861. A small engagement, but a critical engagement nonetheless. And to talk about the commanders who fought here, I'm going to bring on our good friend Tony Wickham. Tony?
Thanks, Dan. I want to talk about the two commanders that were on the battlefield or in the area of the battlefield. Both were West Pointers. First one was Brigadier Charles Stone, a commander of what they call the Corps of Observation, about a division-size unit at the time of this battle. 12,000 Union soldiers, brand new Union soldiers, that were stationed right across the river in Maryland in the Poolesville area. Stone was class of 45, West Point class of 45. He had been in the Mexican War, got out, had been a lawyer and a banker in the California area, and then rejoined the Union Army. He said he was one of the first volunteers for the Union Army in January of 1861, right in Washington, D.C., and he was responsible for the defenses of Washington, D.C., right as the southern states started to succeed. He was, of note, he was the honor guard for Lincoln as he traveled in his carriage to the inauguration. He was brought into Poolesville with the Corps of Observation. His Corps of Observation was about 12,000 soldiers, almost all of them brand new to the military. We have records of soldiers fighting in this battle and dying in this battle that had only joined the Union Army 20 days before the battle. Stone stayed in Poolesville during the entire battle, or stayed on the Maryland side of the river during the entire battle. And that was one of the other keys that Jim had mentioned earlier, is just the length of time it takes to get information from here to his headquarters on the Maryland side. You have to send a runner back, even on horseback, down to off the bluff, cross the river, cross an island, cross the river again, cross a canal, and then find the headquarters. So what we would call the OODA loop, the information loop, is much, much longer than the Confederate commander has to face. The Confederate commander was Shanks Evans, West Point class of 1848. A tough-looking guy there, as you can see. He also fought in the Mexican War, had been in the U.S. military all the way up to the succession of his native state, South Carolina. And then he resigned his commission. He was in the 2nd Cavalry Regiment, U.S. Army, prior to him resigning his commission. He had done well, very well, leading the troops during the Manassas, First Manassas. He had been guarding the bridge, was told that, "Sir, you've been flanked. You need to go," and put his troops in a mission to slow down the Union forces as they tried to get around him, and did a very good job handling those fresh troops underneath his command. For that, he was brought here, made a brigade commander, the Confederate 7th Brigade. He's out here with about 2,800 soldiers, 2,800 Confederates, out here on the far left flank of the Confederate Army. So he's up here in Leesburg, basically on the far left flank with a small force, 2,800 men versus 12,000 Union troops right across the river. Nathan was known to be a hard drinker before the war and during the war. He had required his aide to have a small cask of whiskey accompany him during the Battle of Bull Run. Later in the war, that would affect his ability to stay in command. Later, he was moved to South Carolina, and one of the things that took him out of command is when he accidentally fell out of a carriage and hit his head, and it was thought that was probably alcohol related, unfortunately. And Colonel Nathan Evans was commonly called Shanks because he had very long, knobbly legs throughout his West Point career, and so he was nicknamed that by his West Point classmates. After the war was over, he became a head of a small school in South Carolina. However, his son became the youngest governor in South Carolina's history later in the post-war years. Okay, Dan?
Thank you, Tony. To get us up to the Battle of October the 21st, 1861 here at Balls Bluff, I'm going to bring on our friend Pat Mountain, who's going to get you up to the engagement. Pat?
At the end of September 1861, the Confederates decided to retreat from the areas close to Washington, D.C. that they had occupied after the First Battle of Manassas or Bull Run. That decision brought almost all of the Confederate troops back to the Manassas Centerville area, but Nate Evans was left here to guard the river. The purpose of him being here is defined by the fact that the turnpike that came from Alexandria to Winchester passed through Leesburg, plus the Carolina Road moving north and south also was a key road that headed southward in a direction that could cut both railroads that served the Manassas Centerville area. So those are important locations that the Confederates wanted to defend, and that's the reason why Nate Evans is placed here. In early October, the California Brigade is added to the command of Stone, bringing his command up to 12,000 men. At the same time, once the Union knew that the Confederates were out of the areas close to Washington and they began to start to occupy that area, one of the things that happened was the 12,000 man division under General McCall was taken out of Washington, D.C. and moved to Langley, Virginia, and he occupied a campsite on what is now the CIA headquarters in Langley. That's important to this battle because it happened on October 10th, close to this battle. On October 16th, just a few days later, Colonel John Gary, his command just opposite of Harper's Ferry, attacked a Confederate force there with the intention of eliminating this supply of wheat that was set aside by the Confederates in Harper's Ferry for the purpose of feeding their army. He made that raid. The Confederate force there asked for help from Nate Evans. Nate Evans sent 2 companies of the 8th Virginia plus an artillery piece in the direction of Harper's Ferry, and then that night he withdrew from Leesburg 6 miles to a place just south of here near what is today's Oatlands Plantation, just beyond Goose Creek, a new or defensible position that he took because he was concerned about his flanks. His flanks were now threatened by the fact that there was a force that had just made an attack toward Harper's Ferry, and then he had this 12,000 man division on this side of the river, as well as a 12,000 man division in front of him. Those were all of concern to him. His retreat from Leesburg was noted by the Union. Union Army has people on this side of the river who were sympathizers who could pass that information on, and there was also a Sugarloaf Mountain, which is a 900 to 1,000 foot high mountain on the opposite side of the river that had a signal station, and from there they could see that the Confederates had abandoned Leesburg. So this information was passed on to McClellan. McClellan decides to send McCall up the Georgetown Pike to Drainesville, which is on the turnpike leading to Leesburg. It's only approximately 10 to 12 miles from here. Having made that decision, he then, on October 20th, advises the commander here, General Stone, that McCall is in Drainesville. Perhaps if you make a slight demonstration, it will have the effect of moving the Confederates out of the area. As a result of that, Stone sends 2 companies of the 1st Minnesota across the river at Edwards Ferry, stays there for about 2-3 hours. Once darkness comes, they withdraw, and once they withdraw, he has the inclination to find out what happened as a result of his slight demonstration. The result is that he sends a patrol over here to Ball's Bluff. He sends them up to find out to do a reconnaissance. They are led by 2 men. Chase Philbrick, who is a former stonecutter, and Church Howe, who is a former accountant, leading rookie soldiers up here. They walk on the cart path that we're standing on right here, go up to a hill that today when you enter the park you would go over and come down into here, look down and see what they think is a camp, unguarded, perhaps abandoned. It's actually a row of maple trees, and they will find that out the following day. But that's what would lead to this battle. When they go back to let Stone know, Stone thinks this is a nice little military chance. He has discretionary orders from McClellan to actually go ahead and make assaults into Confederate territory. So he decides that this is the best thing to do. Let's send this raiding force over and destroy that camp. So he orders Charles Devens, the commander of the 15th Massachusetts, who has half his regiment on Harrison Island between Ball's Bluff and the Maryland shore, and they begin the process overnight of taking that force and bringing it here onto Ball's Bluff to make the raid.